Dire team ban.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our last game of the night here in WePlay League Season 3, starting a
10
little bit
seconds
earlier.
remaining.
Not too much earlier. Well, I'm still happy about it. It's Digital
5
Chaos
seconds
once again,
remaining.
this time around taking on Shazam. AC playing for them as well, so it's gonna sting a little bit, perhaps. But we'll see how that works out. My name is Dragon
Radiant
bringing you this
team
game alongside my co-caster Chicago Ted. Ted, how are you doing?
I'm doing well,
Dire
man, and you're
team
going
back.
straight for the shots, eh? TC looking for some vengeance up against DC. Although it does seem they're having a lot of success with Resolution, which is no surprise. Resolution is a fantastic player and definitely
Radiant
rounding
team
out
pick.
this draft, but not to take away from the rest of these guys. Aoi 2000, of course, a TI winning player, 1437, a huge veteran. You are the brother of a huge veteran, and Boba, of course,
Dire team pick.
one hell of an offlaner. So, Shazam have their work cut out. They've got their work cut out for them. What the hell are you laughing at, dude?
You call me out for shots, and then you just call Yava the
It's
brother
not a
of a good
shot.
player.
It's a truth. It's not
You
a shot.
define-
It's a truth.
You define him by association, though. Like,
Yeah, I mean, he's proved his worth. Let's just say he's a
Alright.
great Dota player, and of
Alright,
course now
alright.
we've got a Shed Invoker coming out for Digital Chaos. This is scary. An Invoker out for them, plus the Chen. There's a lot of push power, and Aoi 2000, he definitely knows how to play his micro-intensive heroes, Chen being one of them. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they play out this draft.
Yeah, it's gotta hit you like a hammer now if you're Shazam, I guess. I mean, Resolution Invoker, don't really have to talk about that. You talked about
10
how good of a
seconds
player
remaining.
Resolution is, and
Yep.
that's all about true on this particular hero.
5 seconds
When it comes to
remaining.
skill cap of Invoker, which is obviously pretty high, he's getting pretty close to top.
Radiant team
Have the best
ban.
of them there, and same is true for Chen's for Aoi's Chen. So Shazam, really gonna come down to how well they can play the Earth Spirit, which is an equally high skill capped hero as the Invoker and the Chen are in my book.
10
So
seconds
they're just gonna
remaining.
have to make sure to get a lot of mileage out of that. But I also like the second pickup here on the
5
Bounty
seconds
Hunter. This is
remaining.
one of these heroes that is traditionally picked up against the Chen, just to be able to keep trailing him, make sure that you're aware of his rotations into the lanes,
Dire
and also
team
just to be
ban.
a general nuisance, right? Get losses on
Yep.
creeps that he's looking at, that kind of stuff. So Shazam definitely have a plan up against this, I feel.
Yeah, I really like how they've got both Earth Spirit and Bounty Hunter, because both of them can either play that off lane
Radiant
or
team
roaming
back.
style. And this is going to mean that if they run this correctly, both of them are going to get a huge amount of experience in the early game, which means early tracks and early magnetize are going to make pushing really difficult for Digital Chaos, but it's also going to make early fights very,
10
very
seconds
troublesome for
remaining.
them, because if they lose one or two heroes, no matter, or
5
close to
seconds
no matter
remaining.
how the fight goes, they're still going to lose a whole lot of momentum to that Bounty Hunter. So Shazam, they're starting out with a pretty decent lineup,
Dire
but
team back.
they need to grab a couple of heroes that can make use of the track. And historically speaking, they've picked up heroes like the Luna and the Faceless Void to go with it, but really any major carry can work as long as it's something that's slightly greedy, but still hold
10
their own in the
seconds
early
remaining.
games. So the Luna coming to mind, but the Gyrocopter is one that they can
5
pick up,
seconds remaining.
among other things like a Juggernaut or whatnot. So Digital
Dire
Chaos are going to
team
go ahead and get rid of the Gyrocopter. Actually, they also take out the Death Prophet as the mid lane contester to the Invoker, which, other ideas can be either a Viper or an OD if you want to grab it to go up against him. Both of them can end up working.
Even if you want to go back to more of a global strat with the Zeus, he can hold his own against the Invoker to some degree here if he's
That's
switching
trouble, though.
rotations, if he's not.
Radiant
Move the
team
Night
pick.
Stalker, not anymore, not really. There's even more rotation coming in, a lot of silence at nighttime that the Zeus doesn't really want to handle. Outside of that, I would have maybe proposed a bit of a global strat with the Zeus and the Spectre in the safe lane, just able to benefit from Bounty Hunter scouting out someone, able to bring them down quickly. But with the Night Stalker in the field, it's a little bit less viable. Talked about how the Zeus wouldn't really be able to survive against any
10
sort of rotation from
seconds
either
remaining.
him or the Chen, any one of them.
Yeah.
And can bring a lot of
5
problems in a
seconds
lane they go
remaining.
to. And similar for the Spectre here, he's also quite
Reserve
vulnerable
time.
to that kind of threat. So maybe Shazam looking for something different here.
Yeah, Night Stalker is a very difficult hero to play against. For Bounty Hunter, you've got to constantly be wary of the fact that you don't have a lot of time between coming out of your invisibility and going back in, where Night Stalker can silence you, and that will shut you down very quickly. Same thing with Earth Spirit. You get silenced. Earth Spirit is mostly all spells. Like, he's got very little aside from casting things that make the hero. So a silence, the long silence that Night Stalker offers at night especially, ends up being very difficult to play against for this hero. So as long as the Night Stalker chooses his target well, I'm thinking Shazam are going to have a lot of trouble with him. Not to mention the fact that Invoker and Chen can follow up very well with a ganking Night Stalker kind of style of play. So Digital Chaos, they've got a very aggressive team for the early, but as I said, Shazam have gotten a little bit greedier with these picks, and they can definitely pull it off if they don't let the Night Stalker put a huge stick in their spokes and shut them down before they even get off the ground.
So yeah, what kind of carry are you looking at for Shazam here? I mean, obviously anything like an Ember's Bird, a little bit greedy, is out of the question because they're gonna die to all its silences. Well, they pick up the Tidehunter now, presumably for the off-lane position. Is it though, or is it mid? Because you already have the Earthspit and the Bounty Hunter who kind of want to roam around / off-lane. Where's the Tidehunter fit in?
I'm not entirely sure, and this makes me wonder, maybe it's going to be a sort of off-lane Tide. They're going to run the Bounty as a roamer and the Earth Spirit as a support.
Radiant team pick.
Isn't that bad of an idea? But it does kind of introduce this little, well, what are they going to do? And there are good and bad things about that. The good thing is, now Digital Chaos have to wonder, well, what's going on here? The bad thing is, maybe the synergy between the three of these heroes is not going to work out all that well. But as far as what they pick for a carry, it looks like, again, they can probably get away with something a little bit greedier, but they're going to have to pick someone that can deal with some of this early game push. And of course, with Gyrocopter out, they ban the Jug themselves. They still have the option to run the Luna, which they have in the past. It wouldn't be that bad, but I wouldn't go anything too much harder of a carry. So I wouldn't really go for your Tiny, or I wouldn't really go for a Terrorblade or something like that. I try to stick it within these safer carries. So like a Luna or a Sven, something like that, I would definitely draft up, or at least expect to draft. But with a Witch Doctor, maybe you're spot on with a Tidehunter mid, or maybe even an Earth Spirit mid. This is getting interesting for Shazam, and I'm really excited to see where they go with this. Digital Chaos, meanwhile, might be scratching their heads, might not. Maybe they see something I don't, which I kind of expect at this point. But with the Oracle pickup, pretty standard for them. They picked up Oracle quite a bit. In fact, they've picked him up in the last 3 games they've played, so it's no surprise they'll grab it here. They've already got their kind of owie jungling hero, Night Stalker, as possibly Bulba's player here, and Invoker, of course, for resolution in the mid. So now all they gotta do is grab someone for Yawar in the mid lane, or in the safe lane rather, and a couple of options come to mind. Of course, they could run it as sort of the quasi carry like they did with the Nyx Assassin last game, but not many carries, or not many typical carries are left in the pool anymore, and they'll go for this Sven themselves. Oh boy, Shazam, what are they gonna grab here? I honestly have no idea. Maybe we'll see something really different, like a Weaver or a Lifestealer coming out in this game. Maybe even a Lycanthrope could be their option.
I predict Terrorblade, just because it's
so out there. You predict the Terrorblade.
Just because it's so out there, like the rest of the picks so far. I mean, the way this draft has been developing.
Terrorblade's way too risky, though.
It is, yeah. They're not going to pick it, but...
Yeah. Like, Sven can burst a Terrorblade down immediately. Yeah. Sven doesn't really... He doesn't care about his illusions. Terrorblade's pretty squishy earlier on. Even after he gets a couple of tanky items, he still ends up being very susceptible. So I don't think it's going to be the Terrorblade here.
Doing it out there for the sake of it, but I don't really think it's going to be that either. But then again, I have no idea what they're going to pick, right? This is...
Yeah. We call all the carries. They're bound to pick one of them, right? Oh, come on! I should have known that. I should have known that. Oh man, I feel so bad. Morphling, I wouldn't say he's the obvious decision here, but he's a hell of a lot more obvious than some of those things I was throwing out there. Like Lifestealer, come on. Definitely a Morphling. Man, I feel like I dropped the ball there. But in any case...
You and me, man. You and me. That's
TC on the Morph.
somehow I never think of the Morphling. Just still
It's like the Spanish
really comes to my
Inquisition.
mind that's actually
Never
popular now.
expect it.
Yeah, as you never expected. But yeah, is that the pick though that staples Shazam's lineup together? I gotta ask that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's a pick. Morphling is a hero that can hold his own in the early game, which check number 1 right there. It's plenty of magical damage to end up
10
getting some
seconds
pickoffs.
remaining.
He's also really, really good at escaping and really good at out-carrying other carries like a Sven. So he's got pretty much all the bases covered that we expected him to. And if they can find kills with, say, the Bounty
Prepare
Hunter,
for battle.
then that Morphling is going to have a lot of income to at his disposal. So I'm liking the Morphling pick. Maybe it's a little bit of a weird draft overall, especially considering they've got the Earth Spirit, the Bounty, and the Tidehunter, all very typical offlane heroes. But what are we even gonna see here? It looks like maybe we still expect Brax as the mid lane.
Well, we'll find out in a moment. It definitely looks like that right now, but also though, I mean, he has Stout Shield, himself, and
I mean, he is their
Fire,
mid
it's-
laner, so
Yeah,
it
it's-
would make sense. He's up at the bottom. I guess the really confusing thing here is that he's already at the bottom lane, but he's looking to scout out the potential blocking ward or something coming out from Bulba. So a smart
30
movement from him
seconds
in
to
the
battle.
end. And he's right there for the rune if he needs it. Speaking of by the rune, SVG is being a little bit of a nuisance, kind of hanging back. Looks like he wants to block a couple of camps from the Chen, but he's got to be very careful not to reveal this or they'll know exactly what he's doing.
Sitting there, in a tiny little nook there. And that's actually smart if he's sticking around here for a little bit longer, blocking that camp with his body, and then maybe forcing out a sentry
The battle
from the
begins.
chin.
Yeah, that would be
expecting,
very
yeah,
important.
Expecting block there when expecting ward block there when it's actually only counter attacking that. But same time, it's something else that he can do right now. Just try and snipe the courier. I think
Yep,
that's
something
what he's setting
Resolution
up
did
for.
last game actually was immediately
Yeah.
after he got the rune was bring the courier out to him. So a very good heads up play, recognizing who he's playing against, but it doesn't seem like Resolution wants to do the same thing, either expecting that the bounty hunter's there as you saw him get pinged out, but that was because he came out of his invisibility. But expecting it is half the battle, and SVG, he will go ahead and block the camp with his body, and as you said, that might waste that sentry that Shen had put on him earlier on as MSS in the top.
Gone on already here with the Fortune Sand channel after Stormhammer. Do they actually have enough damage here? Not sure they do.
Sunstrike.
Sunstrike! Ah, not enough. Not landing anyway. The Fairy Fire and the Self going. It would have cancelled the Self, which would have been amazing, but at the very least, it's gonna be a lot of damage going the way of MSS, forcing out a lot of his region.
Yep. Trouble is though, Yawar is
Turn
pretty
around,
low, and
1-4-3-7 here, stopping quite low, slowed by the Bounty Hunter's Orb of Venom. It's gonna be the first blood here, maybe not Yawar. He gets the Mango and drops the Stormhammer just to keep them away from the Oracle, but yeah, just like that. That's DC in the back foot here in this top lane.
and I love this from SVG, and I wish I saw more players do this, was hitting as you're going invisible gives you an extra attack of bonus damage. So you can do this to completely harass the support out of lane. You saw 1437 took a huge amount of damage off the back of his first hit, and he's got more for Yawar to follow up. So there's a lot of damage coming out. And of course, DC made MSS use all of his regen and that push to put him under tower, but on a similar note, Yawar took a lot of damage from the tower and ended up being at decently low HP too. So despite that, they'll use a bit of regen themselves, get themselves back up to a decent fighting position, and hopefully contest this lane a lot better as SVG is heading into the jungle to contest Aoi 2000's experience.
A little bit annoying at the same time. Meanwhile, though, in the bottom lane, Fun has himself a double damage rune, finds Bulba, but yeah, they want to go for this kill. They do have the Maledict on top of them. Malphus, I should say.
Yeah, it's only, I would imagine
Malphus is
level 1.
yeah.
Yeah, Malphus is Enigma.
Is Enigma and Maledict is the Witch Doctor. So obscure.
I love it, especially, my favorite is the Burrow Strike, Impale, and Earth Spike. Like, same spell. Okay, fine. Maledict and Malefice are not the same spell, but they're very close to the same name. It's the opposite is true for the other one. They're the same spell, but very different names. So it's like...
Well, I guess Burst Strike is a little bit different since you move your hero at the same time as well, but Burst
Yeah,
Spike and Impale, they're pretty much the same, yeah.
Yeah.
The lane might see an engagement here on Resolution. There's the combo from Brax coming in with the stone. SVG is there as well with the extra slows, but Then Invoker still has Verifier to go, as well as the boots to get himself out of trouble, so
Yep.
won't turn into a kill, but will mean that Resolution has to be a little bit more defensive now. This other burst region has a bunch of extra tangos or even extra cross points as well. Only has 1 point into it, so yeah, he has another self on the career though, so he should be fine.
Yeah, early boots is really important for Invoker to get. Things like that, when they go on him, he's got to be able to back himself away because his movement speed without boots, even with, is a little low, but it looks like they'll go on him again.
This is going to be enough this time. He was in full health again, and yeah, just put back down to about 200 health points just like before. Well, that took all of the mana reserves of First Bird here. They need to secure a rune so you can replenish that, but they should be able to. 1437. Go too close there, buddy. Yeah, gets actually dust off and does have some help on Resolution now, and that's SVG. Actually the first blood, so a little bit too cocky there. With all the help coming the way of bringing down the bounty hunter. Very well played by DC there.
Yeah, that sentry ward.
Want to secure the room. Yeah.
There was a sentry ward right here, and it went down the moment before Bounty Hunter came in close, which meant 1437 knew he was there. Oh, hold on, mid lane. There's going to be a cold snap on Brax. He can't get away, though. Another kill for Dota's Digital Chaos. I was going to call him Dota Cinema. Wow, I think the jokes are a little bit too ingrained in me. But yeah, another kill goes their way, and Boulder is really good. A rolling Boulder is really good, unless they have a stun in the middle of it, in which case it won't complete. And you're screwed. So, of course, DC recognizing that will bring him down. Very well played.
Very close, perfect timing there from Bulba. Just a Resolution takes a bit of damage himself here, but he should be fine. No more Shazam. But yeah, that was perfect timing from Bulba there. Getting the Void off, I believe that's what stopped that. Stopped that Bulba from rolling just as he started it. So he barely went like 10 units. Looked like.
There was a Void, there was a cold snap, there were a lot of things coming through on that one.
Right. Regardless, another kill going away with DC, shifting the momentum here in this middle lane. In favor of Resolution, is now a little bit ahead in terms of the levels, and also pretty much even in terms of last hit still having to deal with all this stone harassment Brax.
But TC is getting a very nice lane in the bottom lane, relatively uncontested. He's had absolute free farm at 5.5 minutes. Is boasting. Oh, yep, we're gonna have an engagement as.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was quick. That was a lot of
Do
damage.
not mess with 1437.
That's what it comes down to. Also, just as the Sentry Ward was about to expire too, so it's gotta hurt even more.
Yeah, very unfortunate. Going back to TC though, uncontested free farm is boasting 38 last hits now at 6 minutes, and is going to consistently get worse. Now, the thing about Morphling is he hits a point of power when he's got max points in waveform, then gets pretty weak for a while as he starts to get his items up. Like 3 items on Morphling is nothing compared to 3 items on nearly any other carry. The difference though is as it gets later, he does so much more with 6 slots because of how his skills work. He boosts up his damage or boosts up his tankiness as much as he needs. So he ends up being a really good later game carry. For a decently sized chunk of time in the mid game, he's pretty lackluster. So tier 1 tower top going down as TC will still continue to farm and try to mitigate that point of weakness that I was talking about.
A bit of a curious decision in my book for Shazam to teleport 2 people to the tower. This was there as well, but he's not level 6, or he wasn't level 6 at that point, so didn't have the Ravage to go in. Be a little bit of a waste of time. Tower's gonna go down either way, but let's keep it things. Maybe not the worst thing that could have happened here. As you said, TC was still farming, putting on pressure of his own, but still nighttime for another minute. Bulba, not quite level 6, but close enough. Plenty of time on some pressure here. At least keep him away from the wave for a little bit with the threat of a Night Stalker.
Yeah, this is really important. The thing about TC, though, is that he can easily just kind of make up some ground in the jungle if he gets forced off, but he's not entirely worried. Silences do hurt him a lot because he can't morph strength, but he's got some backing up from his allies that I think he's going to be all right if they decide to go on him. So TC will continue to farm, can go to the jungle if he needs. No stacks for him just yet, so it's not like he can just go to the jungle and clear away a camp with a couple of waveforms. But for now, I mean, he's still farming really well, staying ahead of Yawar, who's also farming pretty well, so not to take away from that, like, he's doing incredibly well for Sven, only about 3 last hits behind.
And that's perhaps standard builds with the more mask after the treads.
Yep.
Do
I
you
like
think
his skill
he's
build,
gonna... Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, there are multiple ways to play as Sven. I love Sven, and I love the hero, but there are a couple ways to play as Sven. You can go max out stun and burst him down, or you can go max out cleave and farm like the Dickens. I don't really suggest going multiple points in Warcry anymore, just because that movement speed is constant. Like, all you really get is the armor, which... Oh, yep, we have maybe a bit of an engagement, but the Magnetize is going to end pretty soon.
Right. Thought that could have turned into much more than it ended up being, but especially with Magnetize being used. But Aoi there with the solo menagerie, a little bit hard to keep going, as you don't have any reliable way to clear that out. But they do have the Witch Doctor, which is what, as we said in a game before, I believe there was in a EU game that we had, which is one of the better heroes up against Shen, because the creeps are stun up much longer by a paralyzing cast than heroes are.
Yeah.
So even though they're taking some of the bounces, they're going to be taken out of the fight for quite a bit, and Shen is kind of relying on these creeps to have an impact in these early fights.
Yeah, unfortunately there isn't really anything other than TC to quickly burst down creeps, but it doesn't really matter, because the more you mitigate that push, the more time you have to try to set up either an engagement or split push down your own tower or something along those lines. So it looks like DC are going to go ahead and put a little bit of pressure on the bottom lane. Pressuring TC is the right call here. Make sure he can't get as much unmitigated free farm, and it looks like Shazam, recognizing that their Morphling might be in a bit of hot water, they rotate a couple down.
They are scrambling, but they're running right into Center Ward and SVG. Everyone else is smoked up, so they won't be spotted out as easily, but DC...
Well, they know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. No one in mid pushing out, no one on top pushing back. It's kind of the biggest tell.
Yep.
So, yeah, WoW will be able to split push a little bit more if he wants to.
And he will go for the Helm of the Dominator, which is a fantastic item for him to pick up. Mask of Madness has its place sometimes, but you really don't want to go it often.
SVG gets caught. There's Nighttime being possible, but just to catch up a little bit. They keep the vision on him. And now there's a Void, but they... Please, alright.
One night, twice.
Making their way in mid.
happen.
Maybe they're going to find Brax here, but the smoke, another one, gets revealed. They know he's in the trees, though. They'll spot him. Maybe they have a cold snap. They don't have much. They'll silence him. Out comes a Stormhammer. And was there an Earth Spirit there? Because I didn't see one. He got completely and utterly annihilated. And of course, DC are going to take a tower after this one, maybe 2, as it looks like Shazam want to trade their own tier 1. I don't think Shazam can push nearly as fast, though, so they will have to back off to defend their tier 2 tower. Meanwhile, DC have pretty much free reign to just bring this down to about half HP.
Wall gets a stun off, gets stunned up by the cat. Now Nighttime ends, but not before Boulder gets a pretty decent nuke onto fun. But these Shen creeps, man, they're just keeping Shazam away in this tier 2. Already almost down for the count. The mass rotations coming in. Might actually find Yawa on the side here. He's being helped out by the Shen creeps here. Rocks gets stunned up on the high ground. They just need a little bit more. Throws on another Stormhammer on his own. Hits on MSS. Fun coming very low, but yeah, Yawa's just fighting.
Yeah, he has
No
to
one
at
else
that
helping
point.
him. This is Howie. This is the only one else here, but did what he could. That was just... Good they fought there. I mean, Yawa was doing quite a bit of damage here at the end.
So it looked like the decision had already been to back off from DC. So they were already, the rest of his team was gone. The thing that turned that was the fact that Earth Spirit has such a long range of initiation that they were able to follow him. And Yawar desperately throws out the Stormhammer to stop MSS because he knows that Ravage is up. He doesn't want a Ravage to continue to stun him, but the unfortunate part was that Ravage was only one of his many concerns there. So he ended up getting chased down. Honestly, he was gonna die there. They probably did not have to lose the Chen as well, though. Like, the Chen probably could have either TP'd out immediately or tried for the send back or something, but in the end, Shazam will grab a couple of kills that DC did not have to give up, and that'll put Shazam on the board with 2 to the 5 of DC. However, maybe we see another fight here in the bottom lane.
Still, Nighttime Fun's gonna have to sacrifice himself. Oh, maybe not just yet. There we go.
Yeah.
Another nuke from 1437, just it's the dot on the I, so to speak. And DC in a decent position to continue to push here, but the rest of Shazam still sticking around. They still have that Ravage in their arsenal, which is something that DC has to be careful about.
Kind of worried about your war though. I feel like he's fighting a little bit too early. With a Sven, it's a really tough balance to hit because he's not exactly a hero, despite having the cleave that can straight farm up after the fights have already really started, because he's going to become half of your team's damage. So fighting immediately after the Dominator might be a bit soon.
Get
for
the
him.
dust off here, the Brax. Now there's the ultimate. The combo from the Invoker. Let's turn around. I don't know what's going on. TC looking for a target fight for 1.37. He keeps himself alive with a false promise. And yeah, that's a sandbag as well. That was everyone chopping away at each other. But no one really dying apart from the bounty hunter. I was a little bit confused there.
I mean,
Thought
a whole
much
lot
more
of
would have
sustain does
happened.
that.
Yeah, that's... Oh, Rax. That's not exactly where you want to be. Silen's not coming out in time for Bulba, but Resolution's there with the cold snap. Urn of Shadows comes out as well. The heals from Fun as well as a couple of verifiers. Keep him alive once more. So yeah, there's a sustain once again, but it's still nighttime for quite a while. Bulba looking for more, looking to finally secure this tier 1 tower in the bottom lane.
Your war could be dead. They're converging on him in the middle of the jungle. Everyone's there. Your war is getting caught with his pants down completely, and that is a track kill. He's going to turn and try to fight. He's got a little bit of regen from his ultimate here, giving him the lifesteal, but he can't attack with the Fate's Edict, and they will bring him down. 1437 also tracked, will also get brought down, and perhaps Fate's Edict maybe not the right spell to use on him, but in the end the result is the same. Yawar gets brought down again, and it begs the question whether or not he's joining the fights way too early. If he stays back, maybe farms a little bit more, I don't think DC lose that much more advantage off this one with their kind of pushing style, but really, I mean, it's their call ultimately, and it seems their call is they want to fight, but it's not really working out for them.
I think the problem there was that that wasn't really a fight, it was just...
Oh yeah, it was a straight pick, but...
so that's not exactly what you want to happen. At the very least, the Ravage was used, but that led to a secondary kill as well, or at least have a secondary track kill, which is exactly what you cannot afford out against a lineup like Shazam, who can benefit so much from that. And, TC wasn't even in that fight. He was pushing on tier 1 tower top, which is dropping very, very low. As a result, ripe for a pickup, ripe for an extra injection of gold into Shazam pretty soon. You see, they have to feel the pressure, but the solution to relieve that pressure is to just go for Roshan and get that extra security onto Yawa, who now has that, now has turned that Hammer Dominator into the armlet to help him fight.
Yeah, it's pretty important for him. He's got to find some way to stay alive a little bit better, and even though he doesn't have the element of Dominator, it's going to give him a little bit more. However, this Roshan attempt is going to go really sour.
Don't have the Ravage, but quite fighting just yet. There's the false promise of the guy. He has to fight now. Bulba, stop the cast for just a second. Now they're going to turn around on TC. Not exactly time to want to go on. There's the McIntyre, and absolutely everybody in the back. 1.37 has to get the hell out. Same for Resolution, out of mana as well. Therefore, doing a decent job keeping them away and sending them back home. Also quite isolated here on the sides, and that means easy pickings for Shazam. Tidehunter, this kind of Leviathan of the seas, making himself count. Very tanky, very good chasing potential here with the blink dag on him, and that's 2 more kills going the way of Shazam. And the Roche below half health is right for the taking as well, if they can muster the strength. And with TC surviving that, they should have that. Shen creeps though, and scouting it out. They want to do anything to try and stop that, but without Resolution is there, but does he really have the power? Does he have the mana to keep Shazam from finishing this off? Especially with the Ravage hitting on 2, Bulba should be able to get picked off here, especially since it's not nighttime anymore. The cast bouncing around, catches 1.37 Resolution on top of Brax's Stones. That's 2 more, 3 more down. Aoi, the only one surviving for a little bit longer, and that's only because MSS doesn't have blink cooldown. That just turned from bad to worse there.
Oh yeah.
Scene. Well, could this be their first loss in WePlay League Season 3?
I'm struggling to say that because the one problem Shazam has is that their pushing power isn't that great. So all they really have to bring down towers quickly is TC, who still doesn't hit incredibly hard just yet. So they do push fairly slowly, and that was kind of the one saving grace for DC that I saw. The only issue is they wanted to try to contest the Roshan, which may or may not have been the right call. The thing that killed them, though, was not expecting the Ravage to catch him so far out, and some of those bounces from the Paralyzing Cask were absolutely brutal. Going to 1437, which pretty much locked him and Resolution in place, was not the ideal situation there, but the slow pushing from Shazam is going to give Resolution and the rest of DC a chance to defend their towers a little bit easier, but also defending high ground is going to be a lot better. It's also going to give Resolution more time to farm, which he has the Midas. It's going to help. It's going to give Yawar a little bit of time to farm, which is super important for him because he's got to get some items out really soon. And really, Aoi 2000 is also a pretty decent high ground defender on the Chen. So Shazam don't have a free ticket to winning just because they won a couple of fights, but the track is going to start stacking up massively, and I'm not sure if they're ready for it. Resolution engaged in the bottom. The false promise is out. He's getting caught though. So much damage coming. Is this going to be enough? I don't see any green on the big golden ball, but I guess it's enough. I saw no green, but sometimes, you know, that spell's confusing. Aoi 2000 on the run. MSS going to continue chasing him. In comes TC. We'll go right past him. TP. Oh. Super close, but no cigar.
That's the best play he could have made there, but considering how the fight started, Resolution almost being caught out by these rocks, just saved by the Oracle, which is one of the big qualities of that hero. It could have turned out much worse for DC if they lost more heroes there. As it stands now, Yawar is back up in top lane, farming up. Mid lane, we've got 147, soaking some more levels. But on Shazam, they want to press advantage here. They want to bring down the towers, just muscling them down with their lineup. And yeah, now the Ravage is back up. It would have been super useful in that last fight as well. There was a point where Emesis was right here where Stone Remnant is right now, and could have gotten pretty much everyone quite with that range, but pretty much everyone with the Ravage there if he had it available. It wasn't the case, it wasn't cooldown, but now with that being up, much harder for DC to even go into fights like that, because they have to be aware, they have to make sure to not get caught out by that. So if they are, that's a surefire way to lose another tier 2.
Yeah, and that's real trouble. You can't just continue losing towers like that. Yawar, though, I'm liking where he's going now. He's got about 2,600 gold, so either a Blink or a BKB, possibly the BKB a better item here, but the Blink is necessary to be able to get you in the correct position to unleash the maximum amount of damage. It's kind of a luxury at this point, though, that I'm not sure he can afford, but Resolution still with that Midas, has got his drums about 2,000 gold, so if he's going for that Aghanim Scepter, it is on the horizon for him. Boba hasn't been able to get that many charges with his Urn of Shadows, but he'll have an Aghanim Scepter coming out pretty soon, so I'm not that worried about DC just yet. But the writing on the wall is certainly not the greatest, and maybe a couple of profanities coming out from DC scribbled in there. But in the end, again, Shazam just do not push that quickly. So even though tier 2s are at risk, they're not immediately at risk, which gives DC plenty of time to farm. Although the issue is, it also gives Shazam, and most importantly, TC, time to farm as well.
Sitting in the top of net worth chart, still holding onto the Aegis for a little while longer, being safe for the time being. He also has the Lincoln Sphere, which allows him to not just want to stay a little bit safe in fights, but also go for the split pushing style if necessary. So you can have a Remnant, oh, let's say Remnant because I've been playing Emberspurt a lot, but a Replicate, we can have that somewhere else. Back in safety. And once someone goes on you, pops the Lincolns, you just go back to that immediately, and not a whole lot that DC can do about that. So if they need to do that, if they need to go back to these kind of strategies, they have the ability to do so reliably. But for now, they can just muscle down the towers on the back of the threat of that tie down to ultimate, on the back of Brax also, making plays on the Earthbird, which he has been doing so far quite well. And think with the Veil continuing to be a big threat before the BKBs can come out on DC.
Yeah,
BKBs, that's one
speaking
now
of,
down on Yavor, so
yeah, that's good. That's really good for Yawar to have, and we talked about it. I mentioned how it is a really good defensive item for him, and that's going to allow him to stay in the fight for a little longer. The issue is he needs to get his damage off, and he needs to not get kited. And right now, Shazam are doing a fairly decent job about it. The one issue is with the 3 melee heroes on their side. Maybe it's going to be slightly easier for Yawar, but DC are just going to go in for a straight push in the bottom lane. That's an Ags for MSS. Wow. Okay.
I want to point that out. I was going to ask your opinion, but
well, it's hard to miss it when you get a giant wave of freaking water gushing out at you. But Chen trying to send his creeps back. They're all going to die, though, the minus armor from all that gushes, proving to be a little bit too tough to deal with. And Chen army's dying. That is huge right now. DC, they rely on the Chen armies a lot for the auras, for the pure muscle up on the front lines. So with all of that to break it away, Shazam are getting stronger and stronger by the minute. This push is starting to get scarier and scarier. Though DC are waiting in the wings. They maybe want to try to go in for a fight in Shazam's own jungle, but to do so is incredibly risky, and it looks like Shazam, recognizing how risky it is for DC, they're going to smoke up themselves. The shotgun completed on the Morphling, which is really good for a single target, maybe not as much overall, but it will boost up his right-click damage, sitting at about 230. So taking one guy out of the fight and then being able to hit like a truck for the rest of it, I'll take it.
A little thing that is possible with the replicate is what TC's been doing right now. I mean, he's farming in the middle lane. All the meanwhile, he has his remnant back with his team, so he can jump in at any given time. And oh, hell, speaking of jumping, there was a Chen there, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And he wasn't, so...
Yeah,
not
it comes
the
to
biggest pick-off here when it comes to momentum when you're thinking about high ground, but still, every little bit helps. Every little bit just keeps TC, the rest of Shazam, yeah, that much more up on the high ground. Metaphorically speaking, of course.
With a pretty decent disjoint on the ethereal form right there as TC, he's bolstering his damage a lot. This is going to help so much with their tower pushing and tower speed at which they bring down towers. And oh, that's a 1 point in Wex. Okay, that threw me off.
Yeah, I was a little bit scared there for TC for a second, but maybe he was too going backwards and realized, alright, yeah, that's the Quasic Zone Evoker. Not quite there yet, but yeah, just chipping away at tier 3 a little bit, not willing to commit too much. Obviously, without the Aegis anymore, it's still a little bit risky. You don't want to give TC any quarter if you have control of the game, which they do right now. Getting the items, they have the sustain from Bounty Hunter, going for the mechanism, they have the team fights capability from Rax. MSS with the active scepter, which I'm liking this game, just being counter push, being able to put that minus arm on everyone. It's super useful to have. Maybe a little bit cheesy. Maybe we're looking at a refresher instead in some games, but in this one, I don't have too many problems with it.
Well, yeah, and a refresher is a super greedy item that, sure, you're doing great with 2 Ravages, but they've been doing well with 1, if at all, Ravage so far in the game, so a refresher isn't exactly pivotal for them. Why not get an item that kind of destroys your war, which having that minus armor hitting nearly everyone, you don't have to worry about focusing it purely on your war, and the minus armor on your war is going to be super important because the Morphling is going to hit him so hard, and Sven got a decent HP pool, but again, he kind of gets out-carried by the Morphling. We talked about Morphling's ability to out-carry nearly everyone else in the game because he just does so well with his stats and his auto-attack damage, so TC could be in a bit of trouble, but...
That's Lincoln's prop, doesn't have a replicate out, but yeah, waveform is enough. They don't actually have enough blinks to catch him up. So yeah, that's gonna point out the fact that DC is mostly in its bottom lane. Maybe a little bit of pressure. But on top, Bulba. Oh, it's farming up now, going back to base. Wise decision. But it's taken a long way, and that might be his staff. Braxis here has a stone. And yeah, they're gonna get that kill. Magnetize. Maybe not though. Lack of committal means that 1-4-3-7 is there in time to get the false promise of spamming some of these heals. Ah, that's magnetized down. I kind of expected that kill. and I expected them to go in there with a little bit more vengeance, but obviously not knowing what else is waiting on the high ground, it's a little bit more tricky to go for these kind of plays, not knowing what we know.
Pushing high ground and fighting close to the enemy's base is always tricky, and it's always very heart-stopping. You are at the constant risk of losing that fight just because of the high ground advantage or the proximity to the enemy's base, so that like if things are going a little sour, they can back off, get right into their fountain, and then come back with a fresh set of eyes and brand new swords and just chop them down with some really good equipment. And Sven, I mean, he gets that Blink Dagger out, which is really good. We talked about the Blink and the BKB both being important, so the item timings are starting to, or not the item timings, but the items are starting to come out for DC. And right now, Shazam, it's really TC who's farming incredibly well. They're all farming incredibly well, but TC is the only one that carries very well with the items that he farms. And DC, they've got 3 heroes that do incredibly well as far as physical DPS goes with their items. So the late game carry potential is pretty decent on Dota Digital Chaos. And that's not to say TC is not going to be able to out-carry them. It's just to say it's going to be very difficult for him for the next 10 or so minutes as they try to push this high ground.
While blinks out in time, still actually almost catches up with him, but there's a little spell on the track as well. One of the many virtues of the Oracle, having that on your team, being able to get rid of the track with the Fortune's End. You're absolutely right. I mean, there is a timer for Shazam, I feel, to actually go high ground, get some pickoffs, and get some more tangible advantages coming the way when it comes to objectives. At some point, Resolution is going to have his Agnum Scepter. In fact, he has it right
Done.
And his next item, maybe Sheepstick, something along those lines, right? Even more combat effective items. We talked about Yawar having the Blink, having the BKB. Soon he will have some sort of armor item to help him out there as well, maybe an AC. Even he wants to go to damage out, maybe a crit or something like that. They already have the Axe Gem on Night Stalker, so vision is not going to be a problem at nighttime. DC, as you said, they have their items. And Shazam is gonna have issues fighting into them, especially when more BKBs come out as well, which is another option for Resolution and bo1.
Yeah, and I don't really want to call it a timer at this point because it's tough to say who wins out in the late game because of the way their lineups are drafted. They're differently focused, but TC, the item after Ethereal Blade is incredibly important, more so than really any other item he gets. And when that comes out, it's going to be very difficult to both kill him and try to man fight him. So whether or not Shazam take a full-on fight or they try to split push with TC, it's still very scary for Digital Chaos to end up, you know, playing in this game with a Morphling being that far ahead and doing that well. I mean, he is very far ahead, 5k net worth over the next highest, who is Resolution. So it's still not a bad spot for Shazam to be in. Even though it is a soft timer for them, it's not an absolute, we have to end the game within the next 5 or 10 minutes or we're not going to be able to. That's not the case. It gets scarier and scarier, and the pushing power of DC is constantly, you know, putting them in this weird situation where they lose a fight, they could very easily lose a race.
Bulba might see a fight here. If TD wants to commit, there's still a Ravage available. And a good one, but not exactly the best follow-up right now. They're just waiting on the next items themselves. I mean, there's still some scaling potential on the supports of Shazam. Not to mention here, Morphling who now just finished up with Scary, but you're still looking at the Witch Doctor Agnum Scepter to provide that extra bit of damage later down the line. You're looking at Brax also working on his Agnum Scepter, which is another thing that you have to keep in the back of your mind as Mike's engagement now. Yawar comes in and back pops the BKB, looking for fun here as the first pickup, and that'll be the case. MSS with the Ravage here. Well, does a little bit of damage, a little bit of confusion, but not enough. Brax gets tracked down by Yawar in the back. Resolution dropping quite low to SVG, and not low enough though. TC also admits to that. Did all the damage he could so far. 2 years down. Make that 3. Now MSS still alive, comes back with another wave. Everyone else, he's dropping. They're all dropping here. MSS surviving on the back of his tank, and the same for TC, morphing strength all the way through that fight. But that's a 3-for-3 trade. Is it enough for Shazam?
That was a super even fight. I mean, Shazam came out about 400 gold on top of it, and it shows the power of TC on this Morphling, right? He was able to fight so much and deal so much damage, but thing that DC kind of worries about is the fact that God Strength only lasts so long, right? So while he was able to bring down the Witch Doctor quickly and then shift his focus a bit towards Brax, after that point, you really can't man fight as well, especially against TC. So DC, they need resolution to survive in fights like that. The fact that he went down was the reason I think they kind of fell a little bit short of that fight, but falling a little bit short is not falling that short at all because the fight was just so damn even. And neither team really came out on top, but I think that innately favors DC a bit. And it looks like they'll go in for Brax as he's taking a huge amount here. BKB popped.
Now fun. Oh wow, you just a little bit too close to Yawa with the God Strike. He just died in 2 swipes. Now the Stormhammer comes out. Yawa with the near blink out. But MSS purchases it off now. The Aegis is gonna be triggered. The rest of DC is in position to try and help though. If Shazam decides to continue to fight, and that's not the case. So using the Aegis was about to expire in the next couple of minutes anyway, so getting value out of the 2 more kills going the way of DC. And this is what comes down for me here, when you consider that last fight. Yawa ended up surviving. He ended up getting something out of that, and he still has some ways to go to actually catch up with DC. I mean, that's a gap that won't be closed for a long time. But he has some items that should allow, he has some items on the horizon that should allow him to take these fights even more decisively, especially when they manage to get these fights into a more confined space where Sven can actually hit multiple heroes at the same time, ideally. This would be the case during high ground pushes, or maybe even during the next Roshan fight in a couple minutes.
I'm interested to see what Yawar is going to go for as his next item, because a lot of the time this is where most Sven players kind of break off in their style, but he could go so many different directions. Damage-wise, he could go straight in for a Daedalus, which wouldn't be that bad of an option. Otherwise, I've seen Hyperstone or a Moonshard become a very nice item here because of the overall DPS you do. Some players have gone Basher at this point, which is alright, but I wouldn't put it past Yawar to not get that item. The point being is he's kind of very flexible of where he wants to go from here. The issue that he faces is he has to bring down this Morphling. Like, no matter what item he gets, it needs to be geared towards dealing with the Morphling. And a lot of credit goes to him for going after the supports and bringing down the supports quickly. But after that point, then you got to start worrying about the other carry. And it doesn't seem like right now he's got quite enough gas in the tank to go for the supports and then have enough for TC. So we'll see where he decides to go from here. As he bought the item, what is it going to be? It is going to be the Daedalus coming out for him.
Well, it's definitely going to give him that extra bit of damage here, even outside of the God Strength, but obviously with the God Strength, that's going to put you over the edge. Actually bring down the Morphling here to out DPS the Strength Morph, which is a crazy amount right now, like more than 300 health points that you gain with every second or something like that.
It's really, it's fast.
Really fast. Yeah. Something really, really obnoxious. That's for damn sure on the half of the map, and it's somewhere in that ballpark. I don't exact number right now, but it's out DPS that God Strength Sven with a Daedalus can do that. Now DC smoked out. It is nighttime here, and they will find two. They will find Brax and DC, and that's the Aerosmith going down immediately. BKB pop, looking for more MSS, trying to slow them down with the wave. Yep, Sleeping Charge has another blink available. They will find fun now in the back. Resolution, you are both blinking in to get a Stormhammer off just to keep MSS away.
Radiant's top
Yeah,
tower
that was
is under attack.
aggressive movement into the Radiant side. Radiant Ancient spot there into Radiant's secret area. And I'm just gonna backdoor the tower because why the hell not? The glyph has been forced down.
Are fortified.
So they don't get any objectives off of this, but they forces down to use quite a bit of their resources nonetheless.
That was a very interesting glyph that they just forced, as that opens up a bit of time for them now to push off the top tower. Aggressive is really good for them. Like, getting kills like this and getting towers is going to be very helpful, but for right now, they've got to get a little bit more out of these fights, and maybe they find SVG here. They've got lots of damage. MSS comes in for the Ravager, can't get it off, but there is TC blowing up Resolution with the shotgun.
This was the worst time for me to lag. Holy shit. I did not see that at all.
Oh
Oh
man.
god. Yeah. Well, I guess just imagine Invoker being there and then being deleted by
Well,
playing. We've all
they
seen
saw
that before, I guess.
SVG. They wanted to kill SVG. They had a decent initiation on SVG, and then all of a sudden there's a Morphling there who completely and utterly annihilated Resolution. Like, I don't think there was anything more than the Ethereal into Adaptive Strike. Maybe there was a Shuriken toss that flew out, which accumulated some of the damage, but in the end, I mean, Resolution dying that quickly is not a good sign. Not at all, and it didn't seem like he's building into a BKB. 3,700 gold means it might be smart for him to grab one once he respawns, but for now, TC is going to go up on the high ground, large and in charge, and maybe this is where we see the first Tier 3 tower go down.
It's just a message that you send with a pick like that as well. Kind of making his presence known on the map once again, that there is this Morphling with this insane amount of network advantage, and if you don't account for that, you're gonna get hurt. And, well, what do you do if you're DC? I mean, the way I see it, you have kind of two options. Either you try and kite him around, which is kind of hard, and deal with the rest of his team first, or you try and burst him down, which is also kind of hard. Now Resolution saved by the Oracle. This time around, Yawa looks for more. The Lincoln's drop. TC just gets himself out, back across the trees. And that's a God Strength forced out, a BKB forced out. Nothing really used on the side of Shazam outside of the replicate.
Yeah, it was a really good false promise too, just making sure that Resolution was not in any major danger. You see, I mean, where I would put them to win out this next fight, it would be a good initiation coming out from Yawar, but unfortunately God Strength is on cooldown for about a minute now. So fighting is going to be incredibly difficult, and I think this opens up a huge door for Shazam. They probably know that God Strength is on cooldown for a bit, so they're just going to go up and not really care about any incoming damage, just try to go for the racks, but I'm not sure they can finish up a set of racks. Maybe at best, you know, get a kill on the follow-up, or just be happy with getting the Tier 3 tower.
You still have the Ravage too for MSS, so you just see him sitting on the side, just waiting for an opportunity to link in, but you see very conservative with the positioning, trying to spam on the waves as good as they can, but now Resolution being kept alive. Yawar comes in, no God Strength. Now he's the one being kited here with 4 stars, the replicates out.
Yep.
Another BKB from Bulba.
Back movement speed, man.
Shazam's slowly but surely chipping away at the base from DC. Top lane is also being pushed in. Taking time down bottom lane, I guess. That's the creeps doing some work there in favor of DC, but
yeah,
grand scheme of things, it's not going to make a difference here. The wing tracks are about to fall. Resolution caught with the shotgun, now being saved by the Oracle. His own BKB. Yawar trying to do something with that space, but just can't. Pops the God Strength once again to no avail so far. Brax reinitiates onto 1437, unable to bring them down. Just once again, just keep going back in and forth, keep DC on their toes, force out everything they have, and chip away a little bit more on the main tracks. Should be able to bring that down now. Not available anymore. TC is still very much alive and kicking. And well, they can either continue now, or they can go for the Roche, which should be back up by now. But I might see another fight. There's still ramp available as well. So DC, they can't even commit. Can't even really commit without the last game.
Like, this DC did the same thing to their opponent last game that's happening to them. A major push coming into the mid lane or whatever lane that is bringing down their racks right underneath their noses, but they don't have any set initiation to go in. And of course, Shazam are doing really well at keeping their guys alive, but so too is DC. The difference is, in the midst of all that, the base is constantly taking damage, and the racks will eventually fall. DC are now on the back foot constantly, as one lane of racks is not crippling at 40 minutes, but certainly is not something you want to have to play against with the constant threat of things pushing in. They will go for the Roshan, though. It's a very smart play. No one by Shazam close by to defend against this or stop it. So an Aegis and Cheese will go the way of Digital Chaos. Shazam, though, are still playing from a decent point of advantage.
I mean, it's not like DC doesn't have initiation. The problem is that Shazam's doing such a good job playing around it, because they only pretty much only got TC in the front lines. Gonna be tanking quite a bit of these targeted spells, especially from Yawa with the Stormhammer, which is his main controlling factor that he relies on to be able to actually hit people, but he continues to use that on the Morphling, which the Lincoln just blocks. Even then, even outside of that, the 4-stars available inside of Shazam, just do the rest. Make sure that to keep people out of harm's way. Now they find Yawa in the front lines. False Promise though keeps him safe, the cast comes out back to the Groupstage, so nothing further happening in that, but that's yet another example of things that can go terribly wrong. If they didn't have an Oracle there, that's a dead spend. Simple as that. Now Resolution caught in the same kind of conundrum here. He would need the Oracle. The only thing keeping him alive is the lack of commitment from Shazam. They instead want to bring down the objectives, and that's exactly what they're doing. Range track next on the list. Will be clipped in a couple of seconds, but give it enough.
Oh no.
Once again, BKB's God Strength forced out, but Shazam's just not in range. Now they're gonna go back in, Resolution blown up, that's the Aegis down the drain. Emerson's fighting with the Ravage, double Ravage in fact, and that's Owie going down. McIntyre's and everyone will use the cheese to keep himself alive, but Yawa, he's the one falling. Same for the Invoker, both of them have to buy back if they want to salvage this fight. Bulba still being chased here with the McIntyres on top of him. Can't really contribute to the fight. 1 versus 7. Same for him. Has the false promise of cooldown now, but he just gets annihilated himself before he can throw it up. No buyback in him. Resolution of the art, they just have to run. There's a cast, everyone controlling him up, but that's a GG.
Wow.
First loss of Digital Chaos here up against Shazam. TC playing for them. That's a bit of a mini storyline of his own that some people will be very, very happy about, I suppose.
All right, excuse the meme or whatever, but TC was right there, and DC maybe figuring they gave up one hell of a carry, but no, not to take shots at any team right now. TC played fantastically, but so too did the rest of his team. I mean, everyone seemed to be on a similar level. Tidehunter was on point. Brax